Hey there, folks. Welcome to another episode of Everything But the Song. I'm your host, Vaisman, and with me today is my good friend, Gabriel Gallucci. Gabe is a producer, mix and mastering engineer, and he's based out of Toronto, Canada. He's worked with a lot of really cool artists like Shawn Mendes, Johnny Orlando, Tory Lanez. He's done work for the Disney Channel. He's worked with Victoria Duffield, Sebastian Olzanski, Jason Benoit, Danny Fernandez. I mean, the list goes on. He is a truly accomplished musician and producer, as well as a mixing engineer, like I said. Gabe and I have known each other for a really long time. We've been really good friends, and we do a lot of back and forth musically. Sometimes we work with each other. Sometimes we just give each other advice about music and about, techniques and things along those lines. But we also talk about just kind of life and other passions we have. And we did a little bit of both today. Like this episode, when we recorded it, it was basically after a session. We were kind of just, chilling out, relaxing, drinking a couple of beers, having a good time, and talking about what was on our minds. It was awesome. Had a really good time. I'm sure you will too, because Gabe is a very interesting person who makes a lot of really good points about the music industry, about the musical process, about sound and life in general. Oh, by the way, he's also an avid golfer, which you'll find out more about as you listen to the podcast. Like always, I'll play tracks by Gabe Gallucci, except those won't be tracks he wrote. Those will be tracks he either produced or mixed. I'll include the actual descriptions of what he did on each song on the description page, either on YouTube or Apple Music or Spotify or wherever you listen to this podcast. So I hope you enjoy this podcast as much as I enjoyed making it. And like always, I'm open for suggestions, comments, anything you want. All right, episode 3 of Everything But the Song. Here we go.
Waves crashing the shore. You can hear it from the bedroom. You're closing the door. The only light is from the moon. Out there the world is going crazy, and the only thing I know for sure, you came around in time to save me. Now I'm never gonna let you go. Be still, be still. Give into a brand new feeling. Be still, be still. I can feel your heart start beating.
Ooh.
The sound of a new episode.
Brought to you by.
All right. Episode 3 of the long-awaited, not quite decided, and much wandered and pondered episode of the podcast named Everything But the Song, when musicians talk about everything but songs, and maybe sometimes songs, but mainly not songs. I'm your confused host for today, right after a really fun session with the one and only Gabe Gallucci. You will know everything that there is to know about Gabe's accolades and achievements in the intro. But in this particular scenario, he's my friend and I say co-pilot on various adventures, if we shall say, as we try to navigate the world of making things sound half decent. Yeah, so Gabe, welcome to my podcast.
Brother Tal. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. We're just after a session of
Yep.
just doing vocals, and then so this is the perfect time for us to, focus on what really matters and talk about golfing.
Oh, exactly. Well, basically have all the conversations we have anyway, but now we just record it.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So this is the third episode.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody the same thing. I don't know what this podcast is about yet.
100%.
All I know is that it's not necessarily about music, but it's with musicians. So like you said, it's
Right.
conversations that you and I have all the time. And I think the value that I see in this is to try and get people to see the people behind the musicians or the
Totally.
music industry people.
Totally.
I know, obviously I've met you. We'll give people a little kind of a backstory. You and I met at Iguana Studios when you were just a wee lad.
Yeah.
Looking to learn how
Was
to
it-
mix.
Is it 2013 or 2014?
13, I believe.
2013.
Yeah.
So yeah, 7 years.
Yeah, you were going to mix with the Masters.
Just before. Yeah,
just
so it's
before.
2013.
Yeah, and you wanted to...
Yeah, so I got SSL lessons
Yes.
with you,
Exactly.
so that because I was going to mix with the Masters with Manny American.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to understand, because I knew Manny used a 9K,
Yeah.
but I didn't at the time. I didn't even know the difference between a 4000 or a 9K or anything. I was
Yeah.
like, I got to learn SSL so that when he talks about the SSL, I understand.
You cannot understand.
Yeah, because it's like I'm paying for this course. It's like I should probably understand the instrument he uses. So and that's how we met. You gave me my first SSL lessons.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And it's been a love story ever since.
Yeah.
So obviously, many records and many hours later,
Yeah.
you're doing music.
Yeah.
You've been doing music. You've been recording, mixing, writing, mastering,
A little bit of everything.
a little bit of everything. I mean,
I'm a bit of
occasionally playing drums
yeah.
on stuff.
Drums
still.
is my first. Drums was the start, but
Yeah.
rarely do I play drums. I bust out just on select special
Yes.
occasions.
Yeah, but you play mind drums. Or you,
Yeah. I do a lot of program
yeah, you
drums.
program drums,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and cool. So what I want to first of all present to people. So obviously you have, I know that you have the passion for golf,
Yes.
and that's sort of almost like your escape, but almost like your second identity at this point.
Yeah, it is.
If you don't know, go check out Gabe's golf Instagram page, which is
At Gabe Gallucci Golf.
there you go. Simple as that. But before that, I wanted to kind of just kind of find out, like, where did you see, like, what kind of led you into music in life? What was it? Were you always, like, from the jump as a kid, like, into music? Or is it like, were you into other things before when you were a kid?
Yeah. So I always loved music.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's a pop music guy.
Right.
So my dad, it was weird. Music plays an interesting role in my household.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad never grew up like idolizing a band,
Right.
or like, because you hear some guys, they're like, oh, my dad loved the Beatles and would play
Right,
the Beatles.
right, yeah.
My dad loved like pop radio.
Okay.
So I just had pop radio all the time. I loved music, but I never really thought I had the skills to actually be a musician.
Interesting. Okay.
And so, but then what happened was when my parents split when I was 14,
Mm-hmm.
and that so they split in August of 2003,
Right.
or no, sorry, 2005.
Okay.
And just before, like in September that year, they started the drum line in my high school.
Oh.
And so I didn't want to be home.
Ah.
And so I was like, I started like the passion for music was kind of there. And I remember being in like 8th grade class, which was like 6 months prior to that happening.
Yeah.
And my teacher was talking about his band, the Jock and the Straps. And I always remember that because it's the best band name ever. And I remember him talking about his high school band, and I was like, wow, it'd be so cool to make music.
Yeah.
Like thinking that like it was just never the realm
Okay.
of something I could achieve.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, they started the Drumline. This is when Drumline came out, the movie. And so it was like, this is cool. And so I joined the Drumline, and I went from like never playing drums to I was the snare leader within a year and a half.
Oh, jeez.
So I went all in. I was like, I was all in on my rudiments, all in on practicing. Like I was all in. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Did you go to school with like a pair of sticks in your back pocket?
Oh yeah. I had a practice pad with me at all times. Like I was all in. It was, and it was great. And it was the best thing for me because I was doing Drumline. I started thinking, okay, like music's wicked. And then from there it was, okay, I want to see can I take this to a drum kit? Mm-hmm. And so within a year of doing that, I bought a drum kit and was like, oh, okay, now I got to figure this out. Cause it was weird. I had all my rudiments down, but my feet were useless.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't even think about that. Cause now you have to translate as all your limbs.
But then I started jamming with guys, playing in bands. Then I was like, oh, I want to be in a band.
Yep.
And so I remember in like grade 11 and 12, like I'd be playing in like clubs on like Thursday nights and Wednesday nights, but then like be back at school in the morning. So I was like almost had this like weird double life starting.
Okay.
And then when I left, like high school, I'm the oldest of 3 in an Italian household.
Yeah.
So music as a career was not in the cards.
Yeah. I know exactly what
and I was very fortunate. Like my parents, I went to a private school. So I was like on the academic path. So at the time, Entourage was a huge show.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, I'm going to be Ari Gold. I'm going to go be the entertainment lawyer. I'm going to go be that guy. I'll work with the artist, but I'm not going to be the artist myself. And then just before school started, I had this idea. Well, it wasn't really an original idea, but Travis Barker and DJ AM had that drum and DJ combo thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is when just before the EDM boom was starting to pop.
Yep.
And so I'd met a couple people in the nightclub industry in Toronto, and I said, hey, like, has anyone done a live drum kit with a DJ, but to EDM tunes?
Right.
Before it was called EDM.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And they're like, do you want to do it in 2 weeks? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And so I booked a gig at this place called Zoo Bar, and it was in Burlington. Okay. And it was like 1,500 people, which is coming from playing in crappy rock bands, was the biggest show ever, right? Because I'm used to playing for like 30 people, and like half of them are family.
Yeah.
And so did that, and all of a sudden, music became a career.
Right. Because
I was playing in all these nightclubs, making money.
Yeah.
And I was going to school, and I'm like, oh, school sucks. Like, I don't want to be here.
Right.
I'm not learning anything I want to do. I didn't want to be an entertainment lawyer. And I realized that very quickly. Yeah. And so I'm now playing like 2-3 nights a week at some of the biggest clubs in Toronto, pioneering this thing.
Yeah.
I'm making money. Wait a second. Like, I've been told my whole life that music doesn't make you money.
Yet I'm like killing it.
And I'm like, wow, I'm making money. And I was working a retail job at Tommy Hilfiger at the time. And I'm like, I make more in one night than I do in like 3 weeks here.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a second. I need to rethink things. So I ended up like joining a real band, doing the club thing. My band went to make our first EP. And being a drummer, I was absolutely useless once my drums were recorded. Okay. Because as soon as, like, I didn't understand songwriting at that point. Because again, at that point still, like, I don't class myself as like a real musician. I'm just a guy who can play drums, and I'm an accompanist to bands and DJs, but I'm not really like contributing to like creating music. Yeah. It was then when we went to make our first EP Because at that point, all the bands I was in, no one had made. I'd never made a record. I'd never
Right.
recorded anything.
Yeah.
Other than like drum covers.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not, you don't have you've never seen a song go 0 to end.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And so we hired this guy named Anthony Calabretta, who was at the time working with Abandon All Ships.
Okay.
And so Anthony was like the hot young guy out of Toronto that was like making records. And so we were like, okay, we're going to go with him. And I remember I saw that process happen, and that was like the most addictive thing. Like
Yeah.
going from seeing that to be able to hear something in my car, set off a switch. And that's when I lost my mind. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, that's what I want to do. This is what I've been wanting to find. Because I love drums, but I didn't love drums.
Right.
Like
you loved it as a it sounds like you loved it as a vehicle for making something.
Yeah, but I didn't. And I said this to Mike Sleeth, who is Shawn Mendes' drummer.
Yeah.
I said it was guys like him that made me realize I was never going to have a career in drums.
Right.
Because he loves drums.
Yeah.
When you talk, that guy lives and breathes drums.
Yeah.
And I saw that. I was like, I was getting to that point where it's like, I didn't love drums enough to practice as hard as these guys practiced. And I knew I was never going to be the hired gun guy because I didn't care enough.
Right.
And so I'm going to lose because these guys love drums and they should win because they love drums.
Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, no, like you're exactly where you should be because of how much you love it.
Right.
That's how I felt about production and mixing.
Okay.
And so when that happened, I basically stopped going to school entirely and was like, I need to figure this out. And so I buried myself into a basement with a laptop, and fast forward 10 years, this is my job. I got over 1 billion streams. I've worked with huge artists, and I've made this my reality. I've trained with some of the best people in the world, and made music my job once I found that thing.
Right. So this is like, so today you're pretty much 10 years in the making of really honing your craft and really like learning basically from scratch.
Yeah.
You never really went through a formal education. It's always been like bits and pieces, a lot of figuring out on your own. Was there a time during this process where you were like straight up working a job?
So I haven't worked a real job since that Tommy Hilfiger job.
Oh, wow.
So because the drum gigs paid me. So I was fortunate where I could make money off of my musical skill from the beginning.
Right.
And I think that was a good and bad thing.
Right.
Because then it also made me, it also created this pride where like there were times in my development where I should have had another job to make my life less stressful.
Okay, that's interesting.
But at the same time, I almost like leaned into that pressure cooker of having to figure it out. Because when I dropped out of school, my parents were pissed.
Right.
And they were not happy. Like it was not a good family vibe.
Yeah.
Because
you're breaking away from the plan.
Yes. And I was an honor roll student.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing in my DNA up to that point that was pointing to university dropout. It was like, and even my friends would say, they'd be like, oh yeah, Gabe, he's just going to figure it out and keep it going. And then all of a sudden I took a hard left and
Your
everyone's
parents are like, we thought we did everything right.
Exactly. But I think my battle with them is that I know what I'm doing.
Right.
This is not I'm not guessing. I know this is what I want to do. I'm going to apply the same discipline I've applied to everything else, but I'm actually going to be way better at this because I actually like it.
Yeah.
And so I put that pressure on myself to say, okay, no, I got to make this real and I got to earn because I got to prove that this is viable.
Right. So for you really didn't go into the world of like having having a job or a plan B, so to speak, because you had to make sure that like you wanted to prove to yourself, but also to your surroundings that like you're not some like crazy dreamer. Like,
right.
This is your actual thing.
And I encounter this a lot still. And I think I don't know if this is just a Toronto thing or whatever. We have a lot of professional hobbyists in music.
Ooh, I like that term.
So there's professionals, and then there's professional hobbyists. I never wanted to fall into the professional hobbyist category,
right?
And I saw that happen with people who had an escape hatch.
Yes.
Because if I saw people who had the steady stream of income is very addictive.
Yep.
And it's very nice. It's very comforting.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm extremely jealous of those people.
Yeah.
Because they definitely have different stress than we have as music entrepreneurs.
Sure.
But I knew that stress was necessary to cultivate greatness.
Yeah.
And I knew I was never going to push as hard
if you didn't have that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so having that stress of having to figure it out, having the car bills, having to figure it out. And I'm proud to say, like, I did. I did push through those times and did figure it out. Mm-hmm. Could I have supplemented it? Yes. But then at the same time, I don't know, because it wasn't like I was spending my off hours like playing video games or chasing girls or doing any of that stuff.
Doing
it was like
music.
I was literally like
all the time.
Yeah, it was like I was figuring it out and actively trying every day to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I treated it very much like an elite athlete would train for something.
Yeah.
And so I haven't worked a real job in like almost 10 years.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I call it this is the best real fake job.
The real fake job.
That's
I know.
what
Listen, man, I have days that I wake up and I'm like, so what do I have to do today? I got to go down to the basement and I got to play guitar on that song. And then I got to edit the vocal for that one. And then I got to write a little, 30-second music piece for an ad pitch. And I'm like, this is a lot of fun. Yeah. And I'm like, I shouldn't be allowed to have so much fun for work. But yeah, we're lucky that way. And I think, there's something to be said about the hustle that it does require, because, at some point there's always that fear of like, okay, well, what if the calls stop coming? Like, what if, what if people don't hire me to do stuff anymore? But I feel like if you keep yourself busy, if you keep making music, you'll keep being called. Like, people will keep coming to you because
absolutely. It's a momentum game.
Yeah,
that's what we have, and you have to, and you also sometimes have to like invent momentum,
right?
Invent opportunities,
right? Invent
moments, create situations that put you in a position to make more music.
That's true. I totally agree with that.
And so, and so on the flip, like, part of the, like, I would say the flip is, okay, so I haven't had a real job, but I didn't buy clothes for years.
Yep.
I didn't buy, like, I don't spend money on, like, I didn't go on trips. Like, one of my best friends would go to Vegas with the buddies. Right. I never went to Vegas. Right. Because I couldn't afford it. Because if I had gone to Vegas, that would leverage me too hard to the point where it would put too much stress on the music. Yeah. And so that was the game I was always playing, was like, I definitely sacrificed a lot of life. Yeah, absolutely. And in some ways, I think I might have sacrificed too much in the pursuit. I'm a very intense person. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm very thankful for the skills I have. Like, I don't know if I would be as comfortable and as pumped about my abilities had I not done that aggressive an approach.
I don't think it's the wrong way, because I think a lot of people, what they don't see is, like, you're in your late 20s.
29, yeah.
29, yeah. So a lot of people in their 20s, they fuck around. Yeah. That's all they do. They spend money, they work some job, whatever. They go to Vegas, they go here, they go there, they buy all this shit that they don't need. Yeah. And that's life. And then they get to their 30s, they're having kids, getting married, all that stuff. And then you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything. Life kind of takes its own path. And then they're like, oh, well, but I had my fun in the 20s. Whereas for us, we're pretty much in the same boat. Where my 20s, I mean, I really didn't do much either. I pretty much spent my time working on becoming the best musician I can and being in bands and doing all that stuff. And I didn't go on trips. I mean, I went on one trip and never came back. That's another story. But I totally see that. There's a sacrifice that you can't explain to people, that I don't have money. Like, but aren't you making this much? It's like, yeah, but all of it is going to gear, or all of
Yeah.
it is going to like making sure that I have a rainy day fund because I don't know if the phone's going to stop ringing tomorrow. Or
Totally.
like there's all these things,
Yeah.
and the way I see it is like it was all worth it because now you have a job that you love, and there's a profession, and there's you've reached a level of mastery where first of all you don't spend as much time doing the same job as you did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because you're a lot faster at it, you're a lot more proficient at it.
Absolutely.
You know where everything goes. Also, all that time and money spent and saved, now it's in your pocket. So now it's
Absolutely.
like, if you want to fuck off and go to, BC for however long you're going to go for,
Yeah.
you're going to do it. So,
And exactly. And I think like I'm starting to see the benefit of that now.
right.
But the road to getting there,
It's grueling.
it's a bit grueling because the winds are it's not the same winds.
No.
The winds and we're essentially playing the lottery depending on how you want to work in music. I think everyone also has different barometers of success.
Right.
So I have friends who are very content mixing local records.
Right.
And that was never like I want to compete with CLA and
Right.
Manny and Brower and the guys I trained with, like Tony Maserati. Like I went to learn from them so I could go up against them.
Right.
Right? I want to be in shootouts against them. I don't want to be in shootouts against other people. And
Sure.
that's no disrespect to anyone else. It's just more like
That's just what you said
for me.
yourself.
For me, I look at this also. There's like a sports element
right.
to this.
Yeah.
Where it's like, like let's throw up the faders and let's see who's got it.
Right. So there's almost like a competitive element to it.
Yeah, and I think and so that was also what fueled me a ton.
Right.
Was like, how good can I get?
Yeah.
Can I, if you give me and this guy the same stems, who wins?
Right.
And so that's the trajectory I'm on. That's where I want to go.
Cool. Well, yeah, that is going to take everything you have.
Yeah.
Because those guys put everything they had.
Exactly.
To get there.
I was very lucky. I got to actually go talk to Michael Brower
Right.
at Electric Lady.
Yeah.
On his just on a random day when I was in New York, and he's basically told me, and this was in 2014.
Yep.
He said, if you're not doing this 8 days a week, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Trying to chase it. And I remember just hearing that now, and I was already putting in that level of effort.
Yep.
But it was like, oh, okay, so I'm in the level of insanity I'm applying, is the right level. Now it's just consistency over time.
Yeah.
And that was a great lesson. And I would say the following year, 2015, that was the year that really my career really started.
Right.
And that was the year I worked with Shawn Mendes. That was the year I did the Disney Channel stuff, where I went from working on local projects to now, I had hundreds of millions of streams and stuff that was charting and, work that I could point to that was noteworthy.
Right.
And so I mark that as a big turning moment for me, getting to spend time with him. And I send him an email every once in a while just thanking him for that. And I'll give him updates on me. And I go, like, just want you to know the impact of that 2-hour window I got with him to talk to him and how much that meant to me was huge.
Wow. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I've had a couple of conversations in my life with people that I don't think they even realized that maybe something, the smallest thing they said to me just clicked everything into place, and I was like, oh. and
then you almost feel like there's like this responsibility to like show them that lesson paid off.
Not to me, it's not even a responsibility. It's like I feel stupid if I don't do it now.
Yeah,
because they've just made me aware of something that I wasn't aware of before, and up until that point I was ignorant. Now that I've seen the light, it's like you can't go back.
Yeah,
you can't go back to being an idiot that wasn't aware of it. So there's definitely a lot, and I think every record that you work on and every personality that you meet along the way, once you've and that's where honestly, like, experience, that's where it comes in. That's where it's the most value lies in experience, because that experience is basically the time you've spent meeting other people, getting all these all that feedback, all these people telling you like how to be better, how to be the best, how to be whatever you want. and it just doesn't happen overnight. And obviously, that's everything that's happening while you're training your your musical mind to work better. So with the going with the competitive and athletic mind state. So is there anything else in your life? Again, not to touch on golf just yet, but was there until that point anything else that's comparable in your life that happened that you can see that had a trajectory that was similar? Any hobbies that you were into, anything like that? You feel like, yeah, man, that's a comparable. I definitely experienced some sort of a growth pattern in that, and then I took that into music.
Not really, because I went one track mind.
Right.
I went solo focus and basically cut everything.
Everything.
I just went, I went like 0 dark 30, and on it, and it was, and that was it. It was like, because I guess because you saw, because you met me when I was very much figuring it out.
Yeah, but you were already like you're in that, like you're already in the car chase bit of the movie.
Right. But I think you saw the 3-year window where the lights turned on.
Okay.
I think because you kind of where I met you to then, every year since,
right,
you've kind of seen the evolution of like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing, to like, oh shit.
I don't think you've never had any idea what you're doing. I think
my version of in my head.
I think you've just found more. I think you've always known what you've wanted to do and how you wanted to do it. I think you've just figured out the best ways to do it.
Right. So you saw me refine that and then get good at it.
Exactly.
Right.
And consistently good at it.
But I never did. I didn't do anything else. I really didn't.
Yeah.
I cut everything. If it wasn't making me better at music, I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad. I think there are times when I look back and I go, but then like when I get the stems of something and I really get to flex my muscle on a mix and I get to pull from all that time, I can't regret it.
Right. Yeah.
There's
no better feeling.
Yeah.
For you.
Like when I really get to put all those hours into something for someone, or when, one of my favorite things is when I get to do a mix for a band that is indie, right, and they get their first 100,000 streams,
right,
because of what we were able to do together,
yeah,
or they're able to pay their bills now off of the stuff that we made.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, that's what that's for. Like like we can, like, people are paying bills now, off of music.
Yeah, you've basically helped build their dream,
and so that's what makes it fun. But I took it that seriously, to the point where I didn't do anything else, and I'm thankful for the friends I do have,
right, because
they definitely like I said, I didn't do the Vegas boy trips. I didn't do anything else.
Right.
I was at, if you wanted to find me, you knew where I was. I was at the studio or I was sleeping.
Yeah.
That's it.
Not much else.
No,
that makes total sense. So, and I'm very much like that myself. I mean, I took a similar path from before I moved here. I was
totally
not just as soon as I was in bands and doing that. It's like all I was doing. The difference was I had a job. I was like a guitar teacher.
But I think what I've always admired about you is that you have perspective because of your life experiences.
Right.
And I think a lot of my intensity was based on a shit ton of fear that this wasn't going to work and I was going to be screwed.
Yeah.
And I was going to be left holding the bag on a dream that didn't pay off.
I totally have the same feeling. Well, at least I had. Like,
right.
I definitely understand where that's coming from.
But I think you have a nice calmness and a zenness to you.
I do now.
Right. But that I am slowly learning to develop in myself.
Yep. That
I always very much appreciated and would lean on to you for advice and stuff.
Yeah.
When I was having those moments, because I lacked the perspective. And I think some of that came from just being so music focused.
Right.
All the time, that it was like, if I wasn't getting better, if If it wasn't 100% awesome every time,
Yeah.
I was failing.
Well, it's not. It's impossible to not feel bad and not feel when there's something that consumes all of your time,
Yeah.
all of your focus, everything that you're trying to do. Like you go to sleep thinking about it, you wake up thinking about it, and if you're not quote unquote winning at that, or if you're like running into like roadblocks, it's depressing.
Oh, it's
it's
brutal.
like it's crippling. It's really the whole the crippling self-doubt thing. It's real. Like it's very, very hard to deal with, and especially because where, at least for me, where I was maybe, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I wasn't seeing, like, I didn't have the timeouts. I didn't have like the breaks to go, okay, let's leave that for a second.
Yeah.
Let's not let that fuck me up.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I would go into pretty dark places myself too, because it's, you can't accept, and I think that's the key. You can't accept failure.
No.
And anything less than like the best you could do or the best others are doing is failure at that point.
100%.
And I think,
And there's such a vulnerability to what we do.
yeah, exactly.
Because it's not like,
it's art.
I try and explain this to people. It's like who have like normal jobs. And it's like when you make a spreadsheet, there's not a piece of you in that spreadsheet.
No.
You know what I
No.
mean? It's different. And it's not to demean other jobs. It's just like, in order to make great art, it almost requires you have to sacrifice a part of yourself to it.
Yeah.
And I always felt like there's a piece of me in everything I've done.
You have to get emotionally attached.
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, it's gonna suck.
Yep.
So you have to go there, and it's exhausting to go there some days.
Yep.
Because you're just like, oh, I just wish I could like not have to go deep.
Yeah.
But then you're like, okay, here we go. You
Yep.
put the boots on and you go.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think, and what I didn't have was some of that perspective to hold me together. Because I also fell into the trap of tying a lot of my self-worth to my skill,
Right.
which was good and bad.
Yeah. I mean, it could be an engine. It could be like a fuel.
Yeah.
But it could also be.
But then, yeah, exactly. It could be to your detriment. Because then it's, and that was a good thing I learned when I did the Manny American stuff, was understanding how to take feedback.
Yes.
And understanding where feedback comes from.
Right.
Because not all negative feedback is actual negative feedback. You have to understand the root cause, like the psychology of the note.
Yeah.
And once I was able to decode a lot of that helped, because you can, depending on how you get notes.
Yeah. That's a huge thing.
Right. But again, if you're not trained to take notes.
Yes.
And you get bad notes, and you don't understand where the
I
notes.
hate getting notes emails to this day.
Right.
And sometimes they'll be great notes. Like they'll be like, I love everything. It's like a giant paragraph of I love everything you've done. I just want this little thing changed.
Yeah.
But I just see the long paragraph. I'm like, oh fuck, here we go.
Yeah.
Without even reading it, I just get that anxiety. So I know you.
And that's and I would say like he helped make me a little more bulletproof to notes.
Right.
Because it was he helped me understand the dynamics of clients and the dynamics of working with artists.
Yeah.
And that was a huge benefit and saved me a ton. But even then, even with the armor and having that great training, still doesn't protect you all the time.
No.
And exactly what you're saying. It's like some days, because there are days when you believe that what you've done has served the song to the best.
Yeah.
But someone else hears it differently, and how they hear it that day. And so you have to take that into account. Did they hear it after their mom or their girlfriend yelled at them? Did they, are they having a good day? Are they having a bad day? Like there's so many factors that go into how somebody hears a first mix, and you can't control that all the time. And so then their feedback is entirely it's tough.
They may have said they may have said it differently on a different day.
Yeah.
It would have seemed like a much less of a note, just like the bass doesn't suck. It just needs to be a little quieter.
Yeah.
Whereas like this bass is garbage. You're like, wait, do I not know how to mix bass?
But I also get it from their perspective, because they have the same fear that I have, which is for them, they're spending money they don't have in most cases. If you're not a signed artist, you are leveraging yourself to the hilt to make your art.
Yep.
And if it doesn't come back how you think it should be, that sets off a certain sort of panic.
Yeah.
and so it takes a lot of but see, this is why I put in all those hours.
Right.
Is so that I could go back to the artist and say, don't worry, I got you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here for you. It's okay. We're gonna
figure it out together.
we're gonna figure this out. We're
Yeah.
going to war together. I
Yeah.
got your back. So listen, we're here. I'm here. I got your back. I'm not gonna tell you to fuck off. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you to the finish line. We're gonna do this together. And so that's where that solo focus and that crazy intensity
Yeah.
pays off, because I can also give them a bit of a security blanket when I work with them and say, hey, it's okay. I've got this.
Right.
Tell me exactly how you hear it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then I will try and translate from there.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences where, like, I think one time I remember I mixed this local Toronto band, and I did the first mix, and mind you, like, they recorded kind of everything themselves in a jam space, and it was they didn't even really know what it was gonna sound like. They just wanted it to sound good, and that's all they could afford to do, I guess. And
Right.
and I sent them the mix, and when, like, the first email back that I got was like, so we like a lot of it, but like a lot of it is, I'm not sure if it's how we heard it. So I said, okay, tell me what else you want to hear. And he was like, well, there's a bunch of notes. I said, like, okay, well, give them to me. And I think the guy I was talking to was kind of surprised, because I think he thought that I was going to go, well, then go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
And I explained to him, because that's kind of what I read through the in words that he didn't say. And I was
Right.
like, by the way, we can do this 5 times, 6 times back and forth.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, you can guide me until you feel like this is perfect. And then we did that. And then we got to the point where it was perfect for them. And they were like, oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, a lot of it is just making the client feel like calm and be like, hey,
100%.
like, you've got a support system here. You're
100%.
good.
So that's why I don't charge for revisions.
Yeah, no, neither do I.
I
Really.
give when I quote, it's unlimited revisions.
Yeah.
Normally it doesn't take more than 5.
No, I don't think I've had.
Yeah. And typically it's like hi-hat up.
Yeah.
Hey, can we try this reverb?
Yeah.
It's never like remix it.
No.
And the times where it goes sideways is when the artist doesn't know their vision. The only
Yes.
times I've had when an artist knows their vision,
Yep.
I've had there's nothing, because I get stems with identity in them,
Yep.
which is what I love about the stuff you send me.
Thank you.
Whenever stuff that's why everything you produce that you send me, I
Right.
love, because it's the last mix we did we work on this artist Dawson Gamble together.
Yep.
Last mix was V1 was the final.
Yeah. Because it was like,
Because I love and I
It's
tell
all
you, and I
printed
said,
in.
I go, you guys know what you're doing.
yeah.
Print the vibe.
Yeah.
I will enhance from there. I'm here to put steroids in it,
I love that.
And-
I
and-
love that approach.
and it's more fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun to get something that is vanilla.
Yeah. And then you have to decide what the identity
right,
is.
and then because it's like and that's a tough game. And I think, if you're an artist listening to this, if you want to bring out the best of the people who you hire, give them whatever flavor you want it to be. Bake that into your art.
Yeah.
And then they will then see how to best present that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love the stuff, like everything you send me. I mix it so quick because the
Right.
roadmap's there.
Yeah.
It's fun to mix
Yeah.
because again, the roadmap's there, and it's like, oh, okay,
You understand the intention.
100%. And that's the best stuff when it's like, oh, this has identity.
Right.
Oh, I know. That's when I go on autopilot.
Yeah.
And the creative juices come to the top.
Yeah.
Because it's
You're
like,
not even thinking at that point.
oh, it's like, let's go here, boom, 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 and then all of a sudden the lights turn on.
Yeah.
Versus if you send something bland, that's when things go sideways. When the
Right.
artist doesn't know who they are.
Yeah.
And they want you to give it to them, but at the same time they don't. Because they don't
Now-
know who they are.
Here's a question. How much of that have you encountered that is outside intervention? It's not necessarily the artist. Like there's some sort of a quote unquote team member involved.
But that's all. That's again, but an artist that doesn't know themselves allows that to happen.
Right.
The best artists know who they are.
Yeah.
And then surround themselves with people. And when those people step out of line, they correct. That's what I've seen from the winners.
Right.
The ones, or there is somebody in the camp, because the artist may not be the quarterback. They may be an entertainer who's a vehicle. Because there's also a difference between artists and entertainers.
Sure. Yeah.
So there is clearly a quarterback.
Right.
Whether the quarterback is the artist or not is a different story. But there is somebody that has the vision and is bringing everyone along with them to take it home.
And that person knows where everything needs to land.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when there is that person, it's totally fine. When you suddenly bring in other people to influence, I want to go here, I'm trying to be trendy, I want this to work. It's like, all of a sudden, it's like, who are you?
Right.
Like, what are you trying to say with your art here? What are you trying to do? And until you've defined that for yourself, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. There's so many reasons why that won't work.
Yeah.
But I think it's tough because also too, that's not a conversation that people have a ton. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's a tough thing in music, is that like, there is also no roadmap to what we do.
No.
Even from, there's no A plus B equals, this is how your music career is going to happen. So I think also that invites a lot of that uncertainty. And if you're not an artist that's firm, you can be vulnerable to a lot of that because you don't want to screw up.
Yeah. I've been in many positions where I felt like I should just play ball instead of, quote unquote, impose my, my opinion. And I can't tell you how many times I've done that, and looking back at it, it's straight up like, I do have regrets, and that's one of my regrets. That it's like,
but that's because you're an actual artist,
right?
And you're because here's the flip side, is that you also can't be delusional.
Yes,
and there are a lot of artists that are delusional, and I don't mean that to be rude. It's more so you have to have self-awareness.
Yeah,
it's a self-awareness game. Because you also need to be able to take criticism that can make you better.
I think there's a difference between criticism, though, and there's criticism that goes like, okay, this song isn't working. Like, somebody can hear something. There's certain things that you don't even need to be a musician to hear. It's just wrong. You can play a song to an innocent bystander who hears it and goes, I don't know, I don't like it. And that to me is as valid of an opinion as some record executive saying like, here we need to change something here. But I think maybe the biggest trick here is to know when you're being the one who's missing the point,
right?
Versus when somebody else is just trying to act like somebody who's like a record executive or whatever, and they're acting out of fear,
exactly.
Out of
but I think, and that comes from putting in the hours, which is what you've done. Which is why, from as an artist perspective, and I put out my own music too. And the point is to always have that artist muscle flexing,
right?
To understand, because I also do it so that I understand. I don't want to. I come from being an artist.
Yeah.
Even though I'm on the other side, I work with artists, but I don't want to lose that sensibility, because I think that's also very important to understand what an artist has to go through.
Yeah, I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster for them too. They wrote the song and they're coming in and
totally,
they have their insecurities, and you're basically, putting them on display.
Absolutely, and so you have to be very judicious with that process, and you have to be so hard on yourself to know when you are doing the right things for your art, and also when you are trying to push something uphill that isn't good.
Right.
And there was a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I made early on that I thought was great, but I had good people in my corner to give me advice.
Okay.
And I also had bad people in my corner,
right,
who gave me wrong advice. But I was able to navigate some of that and understand. Okay, no, that wasn't ready. And now looking back on it, they were right.
Right.
That wasn't ready. But then there was stuff that was ready that should have gone.
Yeah.
And it got blocked by what you're saying. Bad feedback, because those people wanted to impose their will.
Yeah.
And so, again, that's why going back to what we were saying about the solo focus, like that's why I put so much time in. It's because I wanted to be able to know.
Yeah. To know when they're wrong.
I wanted to be able to know when it was working and when it wasn't, because I didn't want to be delusional and I didn't want to be a mixer that sold people on the fact that like I can mix your song and it can, you see those guys in the like radio ready mix and they've never had a song on the radio.
Exactly.
And it's like you're lying.
Yeah.
You're lying to people.
Yeah.
Like
we both know a bunch of
100%.
Yeah.
And so I was like I took it so seriously to take care of the artist.
Yeah.
And that was always my goal.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I mean, look, I think at this point,
we've talked about everything. We've talked about the song and nothing else.
No, we haven't talked about
Actually,
the
it's true. We
songs.
haven't talked about the songs.
We've talked
That's
about
fair.
and again, this is why I keep saying like this. We don't really know what this podcast is about yet, but
No, that's great.
For me, that's important actually because you're bringing up a lot of things that I think musicians can take, not just if they're trying to be producers or engineers or whatever. Like even if they're just trying to be musicians, like look, it takes a lot of fucking work and it takes a lot of commitment. And we were just talking about Dawson Gamble, who we're working on this stuff together. I mean, talk about a guy who comes in prepared, who puts in the hours,
Absolutely.
who has the passion for it. He has a team of guys who are like-minded, who like whether it's as
Because he's a magnet.
exactly. He's a positive magnet.
You're a magnet. You will find your team if you are good enough.
Exactly. And that, I think, to me, that's a value that has nothing to do with the song. Like what he writes about and what he does, that's a different, that's a different lane.
But he lives it.
Yeah.
He breathes it, right?
Yeah.
Like I've talked about this before in some of like the talks I've done when I speak at conferences and stuff. But one of the things that I use as my barometer is like, and when I worked with Shawn Mendes, and I saw like that kid was going to be who he is. Then you give him a guitar in any corner of the world, he would have emerged who he is now.
Right.
Because I remember when we were working with him, like he would come off the road and he would go back to his house in Pickering and he'd be in his room playing guitar.
Yeah.
Like when I met him in 2015, he couldn't play piano.
Wow.
He was just learning how to play piano.
Wow.
And now you see him on stage
Playing
and he
piano.
destroys on piano. And it's like, you want to talk about, like, that guy had all of it, was aware, and then put in the time.
Yeah.
And so when you see people who have that caliber, and then you see, it's obvious, his success was inevitable because of his talent and his preparation and his time, and you saw how serious he took his craft.
Yeah.
I remember recording vocals with him. The guy was like 40 years old mentally. Like the way he would produce himself vocally was just like, oh, okay. But he knew, so that's what it takes.
Yeah. It's laser focus.
It's this, and that's when I go back to the professional hobbyist stuff.
Yep.
People don't want to put in that amount of time. They want what comes from being a musician.
Yes.
But not the effort that it takes to be an elite musician.
Yep.
And the guys who got it, they put in that time.
Yeah.
Like the men and women that run that have the sauce.
Yeah.
That's what it came from. So when we find artists, and that's why this guy Dawson, like I remember I've been working with him since he was 16. He's one of the few that he has a guitar in his hand at all times.
Yeah.
It's an extension of his anatomy at this point. And that's what it takes.
It definitely does. I mean, I'm
you gotta love it that much.
Exactly. Like so for me, and I'm such a lot of times I'll see what I call teenagers, and when I met the Chase, they're kids, and to me they're still kids.
Yeah.
But
the Chase was the band that Dawson was in before he went solo.
Yes. And when we hung out at Boots and Hearts, playing for supporting Justin Tyler's performance.
Yeah.
And we were jamming, and I was like, I noticed, I was like, okay, like these guys aren't some like amateurs, there's something going on here. And I kind of picked up on that energy. And then, when I started working with Dawson on his stuff, and he would always show up with like a Pro Tools session ready to go. The song is like, if it's not there, it's 95% there.
Yeah.
And, but yet willing to take criticism.
Oh yeah.
But willing to stand for what he thinks is
1,000%.
Like if I would say something and again, it's all in good vibes. But if I would say something, I don't know about this part, and let's try to change it to that, it's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So he knows to stand for what he believes in, but at the
100%.
same time knows how to, fix things around. But one thing that I find is a common with all this stuff is it's also just people who understand decent humanity, and that to me is like the most important thing that I find. I mean, there's going to be assholes, but for the most part, the people who are good at it, they don't have time to be assholes.
No, yeah. Like I go back to Michael Brower.
Yeah.
Well, he's so nice.
Yeah.
I like
He doesn't know you anything.
yeah. I remember coming up, I couldn't buy time from some engineers here in Toronto. Some
Yeah.
senior engineers.
Yeah.
I couldn't get a wave on the street.
Right.
But the top dudes all day. And
Yeah.
I got to spend time at the Blackbird Academy in Nashville.
Yeah.
So I detoured. Actually, I went there in 2016.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was in audio recording engineering school.
Yeah.
While I had the #1 album in Spain.
Yeah.
And I was racking up streams with all this Disney stuff because I had this like crisis that I wanted to like again refine my skills even more.
Yep.
And so I didn't have that confidence because I didn't
Go to
I didn't
school.
because again with what we do, and the artists can relate to this, nobody tells you when you're actually good enough. The market has to tell you.
Yes.
And even though I had the market telling me, I didn't believe it. And that was because I had my own self-doubt issues that I've
Right.
had to deal with. But again, when I was down there, I got to meet Vance Powell,
Yeah.
who works with Chris Stapleton. Again,
Yeah.
super nice, awesome dude.
Yeah.
I got to meet Eric Valentine. I got to meet just insane amounts of people. And
Yeah.
like the best of the best at what they do. Sylvia Massey, like just all these people.
Super nice.
Awesome. Amazing humans.
Yeah.
They were all amazing humans.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. Like because again, and the motto of Blackbird, John McBride
Yeah.
is the owner of the studio, and his whole thing is like attitude is 99% of the gig.
100%.
And it's the truth.
Yeah, I've learned that, like, having dealt with people who had some major attitude issues, I've learned that there's nothing more that sucks the life out of a room than somebody with an attitude issue, no matter how good they are.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah.
But okay, so to bring a little patch of green into this conversation.
Yeah.
So, maybe 4 years ago, I remember talking to you. We're just catching up, and you're like, "You know what I've been doing, man?" I was like, "What?" You're like, "I've been golfing."
Yeah.
It's like, "You mean you do something that isn't sitting in a dark room and mixing?"
Yeah.
They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, honestly, dude, it's like it's calming me down, and it's a really good way for me to unwind. And
Totally.
I do it every morning, and we do the Mark Wahlberg. We run the course. I was like, "All right, okay." Like,
Yeah.
and I'm in my mind, I was thinking, that's nice. That's probably gonna be over at some point because how much time can you spend doing that? 3 years later, you're like, in competitions and stuff. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what
I love
the hell,
it.
Gabe?
Yeah. So what this spawned from, and I think a lot of musicians, I think this comes back to, I started to get really bad, like anxiety.
Right.
And a lot of it, I had some personal stuff that was going on, but a lot of it stemmed from just like being in a dark room for 18 hours a day. That's just not healthy,
Yeah, that'll give you anxiety.
And so I think I had pressure cooked myself to a point of just unhealthiness, because I was on a schedule where it was like I would wake up, I'd go to the studio, I'd work all day, I'd go home, I'd sleep, and that was it.
Yeah.
There was nothing else.
Yep.
And I would book myself the entire day. I was working 7 days a week.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was it.
That's what you do.
And I needed to. Like, it was like, for the goals that I had and things I was taking on, I took on too much. I put too much on my plate.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I was like, I needed something else.
Yeah.
that just wasn't music, and that got me active. Because also too, I think a big discussion that doesn't happen in our industry is our health.
Yeah.
And what scared me was I saw a lot of the senior guys in our industry, and I don't necessarily like their lifestyle when they're in their 50s and 60s and they're still in dark
They don't
rooms.
look very good.
Yeah, and I just, that made me really nervous. I was like, like, I'm okay to do this now, but I definitely don't want to live in a dark room forever.
Yeah.
In front of speakers. Like, I think there's also a little more to life.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, like golf was actually my passion before music.
Okay.
When I was 14 and did the drumline thing,
that's what I was
I
mining for.
had to choose between golf lessons or a drum kit.
Ah.
That was the big decision. It was like, do I go and try and do golf lessons? And I picked drums because I didn't need anyone else to take me there. I could do it all the time. Because again, I'm a very intense person.
Yeah.
And so I am like, when I'm all in, I'm all in. There's no middle ground for me. I don't really know how to do anything passively, which is which I'll get into with golf. Is like, I don't even know how to do that passively. I've now taken that almost too far. But yeah, so it got me outside. It got me meeting different people.
Yep.
It got me meeting people and having different conversations other than songs and musician stuff. And it got my health back in order. Yeah. Because my resting heart rate was not at a level that I was comfortable with.
What?
And I was like, oh, that's not good. Like, I'm too young. I'm too young to feel this crappy because my back was destroyed from sitting in front of a computer and in front of a console.
Yeah.
And I had heard, I think it was David Bottrell. I heard him talk like he had to get like, or it was someone like a producer like him where he had to get like spinal surgery or something. Like he had like, cause from being
on the
console. And I was like, oh my God, like that's not, like that's
not good.
Yeah. Like I remember just hearing somebody tell me like a story like that anecdotally. And I was like, oh, that's not good. Like this isn't healthy.
No.
And you see, when you're making records, it's not like you're ordering pizza, you're drinking Diet Coke. You're like, you're not living.
It's really, really hard to do it in a healthy way.
No. So I was like, I need a big shift, and I had overcooked myself.
Yeah.
I had gotten to a point where I was not enjoying it anymore.
Yeah.
Because of how much I had cooked myself.
Yeah.
And so golf gave me something else.
Yeah.
It was just something else that I could apply myself to. And then the other thing that drives me nuts, music is not objective.
No.
It's not fucking objective. And I hate the fact that there is so much subjectivity in our industry.
Yep.
Because there is also unnecessary subjectivity. In like, some things are objective.
Right.
There are objective levels of good.
Yep.
When a song hits a certain level of objective good,
yep,
from there the market can tell you,
yep,
if it's exceptional or not.
Right.
But there are objective levels of good, and I just got tired of people telling me that certain things I was doing weren't good, and then I would go to market with it, and it would be incredible. I had, I had a song with an artist where I was putting it out myself and kind of testing some of my theories because I was getting really into artist development.
Yep.
And had a meeting with this person, and they blatantly told me to my face this was going to do nothing.
Yep.
And we did 1 million plays in 90 days on Spotify with no promotional budget.
Yeah.
That was all ground hustle.
Yep.
And I didn't have an inside guy at Spotify. Like, we got great playlisting. Like, it worked because the song was good. We had the right plan. We did it. So in golf, if I hit a 300-yard drive, nobody can tell me it's not a 300-yard drive.
Yeah. That's very true. Yeah. You can't say, oh, that's not a good.
No.
Yeah.
Because if you were to play golf by music industry rules, I hit a 300-yard drive, a music exec would come out of the bush and kick it into the water and be like, oh, you know what? It wasn't even here. It wasn't even here. Or you hit it onto the green into the hole, and they'll be like, but you can't actually, to get it into the hole, you need us.
Right.
You need us to take you there. You can't.
What are you talking about? I took the swing.
Yeah, you can't put it into the hole on your own.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, if golf was played by music industry rules, you would never finish a hole because there's just so much stupidity.
Right.
And I just needed something that was purely objective.
Right.
And I knew whether I was good or bad objectively.
Yeah.
Based on my score.
Interesting.
And I craved that so much because I got tired. I got so exhausted with subjective bullshit.
Yeah.
It was ruining me because I would be like this, and this is when when I was trying to do more of the artist development stuff, and, you start getting into radio and you start getting into all these other things, and you realize everyone's got these opinions and it's all based on relationships, not actually based on skill.
Right.
And that drove me nuts because I'm a terrible networker.
Yeah.
I do not like being out there, being social at the bars, chumming it up with people like that. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. It's just not who I am.
Well, there are people that's their job.
I love the work.
Yeah.
I don't love the other stuff.
Yeah.
I love making music. I don't want to go and sell people and have to get drinks and be fake. I just want to make the song, put it out, and if it's great, I want people to go, that's great, and listen to it and put it on their playlist and love it and experience it in the world.
Yep.
That is my ideal existence.
Yep.
And I just got so tired with all the other stuff that had to come with it.
Yep.
That's what actually killed me.
Yeah.
That's what started.
I don't think that some people can cross that line, but I think they're very rare, and I don't think they're ever really good at like both.
No, and I respect the people who can play that game, because I also know that that's a skill in itself.
Yeah.
And I've met those people, and I honestly, I tip my hat to them because that's a skill.
Yeah.
That's a skill. I just don't have that skill. I don't have the patience.
Yeah.
And I don't enjoy it. I can't play that game. So I just had to resign to the fact that I'm going to lose.
Right.
And
on that plane.
on that, like, I'm going to lose in that game.
Yeah.
Cause I just can't do it. It literally kills me.
Right.
To do it. So,
yeah, and you shouldn't. You should. I don't. I mean, like, there's a reason there are people who do it. There's a reason. Like, most of them didn't spend the hundreds of thousands of hours that you spent mixing, recording,
100%,
producing,
and
writing.
they're necessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're necessary. I have a song being shopped right now to a major artist that and it's because of a guy who can hustle like that. Yeah. That is what his skill is.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I'm like, great. I need more objectivity. This is where the competitive side. I grew up playing sports.
Yeah.
So that, like, I grew up playing hockey. I grew up playing baseball.
Yeah.
Like, I need objectivity. I like merit. You earn it.
Yeah.
You put in the work, you earn it. Boom.
Yeah.
Like, that is how I function.
Yeah.
So what golf gives me is the most objective playing field possible.
Yeah.
Because I know exactly where I stand, and the rules are defined. There's no gray areas.
Yep.
And you can't fake your score. Like,
no.
Otherwise you're cheating, and you get called out for cheating. Like, golf is all about honorability.
Yep.
If you cheat, you get shamed. Whereas in the music industry, cheating is part of the game. It's built in. Like, you actually need to cheat. People fake their plays. People fake their followers. People fake things.
Yeah.
Our industry is built on a false economy here in Canada.
Yeah.
What drives me nuts about Canada is that we have music businesses that are subsidized by government grants, and they have no incentive to make good records.
Right.
Because they get government grants.
Right.
So taxpayer money funds the bill.
Right.
I can't compete with that. I can't.
Well, but do you have to compete with that? I mean,
no. But when I think about because I was very idealistic in how I was going to approach the music industry, because I was like, again, merit based. I'm like, we're going to make amazing songs.
Right.
We're going to bring them to the people, and it's just going to grow organically and all these things. And then I realized, no, that's not how it works. And I was a bit disillusioned, and it's my own fault. Sure. And I accept that. And so,
but I think everybody goes through that. I mean, I think it's also the same way in, like, the world of, I don't think it's just a music industry thing. I think it's an entertainment industry thing.
Absolutely. But I think once I understood and learned more about how the game is actually played,
right,
it made me want to participate less and less.
Right. In the game part of it.
In the game, but also in the music.
Right.
because it killed my love of making music for a bit.
Yeah.
And I still battle with it a little bit.
Right.
Because it's just when you realize how things are propped up.
Yep.
And how certain things go through the door and certain things don't.
Right.
It kind of, I don't know. It makes you reevaluate, what are you really after?
Right.
When you know, like, because it's not objective. Winning a Grammy is not the same as winning the Stanley Cup.
No.
And it's, or winning a gold medal. And
No.
when you understand how those things are curated,
Yeah.
and how those wins are,
There's a lot of politics involved.
it's a lot. It's marketing.
Yep.
And so that's fine. It's a marketing tool.
Yep.
These things are marketing tools.
When there are a lot of anomalies for sure.
100%. And
that,
this is a very wide brush I'm painting. But once
Sure.
you start to understand, at least for me, when I started to see how things were built and propped up and how it worked, I needed something else where that didn't exist, or I could go to,
Yep.
and it didn't have all those flaws
Right.
built in.
Yeah.
Where cheating is frowned upon, you have to play honest. You are rewarded by being true to your word.
Yep.
You are rewarded by putting in effort.
Yep.
And if that day is your day, you can shoot an incredible score and have your career best, and you can walking away, know that what you shot that day was all you.
Yep.
No one can take it from you.
Yep.
No one can claim credit over that,
Right.
because you hit all of those shots.
Yeah.
And that, to me, was the most liberating thing.
Yeah. I definitely see that. It's clean and simple.
Yeah.
And it's nice to get wins when you're struggling, and not that you're struggling compared to most producers your age that I know, you're definitely not struggling by a long shot. But I think that the reality of it is that you set up certain goals, and you have certain things that you think are going to go a certain way,
Totally.
because of the amount of effort and because of the quality of work they put into it. But then you see that there's a game that the rules are just not.
Yeah.
They're not really written. They're constantly changing. Every week there's something new that
There's
tilts
something new.
everything.
And there's always a different reason.
Right.
That's what always drove me nuts.
Yeah.
There was always a different reason why something couldn't work.
Yeah.
And it was and they can pull justification from anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just got tired. So I got tired of it. And so now I very much choose my involvement in projects and things very differently.
Yeah.
Based on that knowledge.
Right.
Because the problem where that overextended me was that because I was so emotionally tied and so invested in the people I was working with and the artists and the music, I was like, oh wow, like I'm giving too much of me away.
Yeah.
To a thing that's never going to reward me.
Yeah, well also you're taking the losses on your back.
Exactly. So
Even though it's not you.
right, but it's tough to not feel that way.
Yeah.
When you're giving so much of yourself up.
No, for sure.
Right.
It's
and I took so much accountability to make sure that like I could be that guy for the artists.
yeah.
That the losses became losses became twice as hard.
Yeah, there's definitely especially for me, being obviously very we're close and we do a lot of stuff together, and even a lot of stuff they worked on together that I would see performing online and doing incredible things, and then just not getting not even a nod on things like radio or terrestrial radio, and you go, how and it's you can't explain it. It's just a very, very weird situation. And
that's what drove me nuts.
Yeah.
Because I had the graphs, I had objective data, which is what I love.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's the objective data. Like my favorite was we sent stuff to a market where we were getting a crazy amount of Shazams every time a song was played.
Right.
So we were in this when they do the hot or not at 7 on certain markets, we had won 6 days in a row.
Wow.
Okay. And we were getting 25 Shazams
Oh wow.
per spin.
Wow.
Okay? You can't fake Shazams. Like, I don't know enough people in that market
Yeah.
to then say, hey guys,
Can you Shazam
at
this
6:55 when they play this,
in Red Deer?
yeah, like, make sure you Shazam it. And again, if that was the case, the Shazam only is per one account per device. Like,
Yeah.
there's only so many times you can get that to happen.
Yeah.
So we had real organic traction. I couldn't get them to add the song. And we had won 6 days in a row off of votes
On their station.
on their station. And they wouldn't add the song
Wow.
because of, this and this. And this guy bought me dinner. And I was like, okay, cool. And at that point, I was like, oh, I can't play this game because it's not objective. Because again, for me, I need a 300-yard drive to be a 300-yard drive. I need that because, and if I bounce left and it goes into the water, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because you saw it happen, and it was you.
I would rather the song suck and lose that way
Yeah.
than have a great song and lose based on political influence. And that's the part. Like, I don't actually mind losing
Yeah.
if I actually
If
lose.
you deserve to lose.
If I deserve to lose, 100%, I'm down to take that L.
Yeah.
But I don't want to lose based on a subjective reason.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, but I think that's just there have been a lot of songs since I've moved here that I've seen by other artists that I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be the biggest thing ever, and it just does not get.
And you yeah, it doesn't. And and you get sometimes you get lucky, and
Yep.
and you get actually I saw this thing Vice did on Shaggy.
Okay.
You know the song It Wasn't Me?
Yep.
Massive.
Yeah.
No, the label wasn't behind it at all.
Right.
It took a DJ in Hawaii to download it off Napster
Wow.
because the label wouldn't. So he downloaded it off Napster. The label wouldn't even send him a copy.
Wouldn't send Shaggy a copy?
No, wouldn't send the
DJ.
The DJ.
Right.
Shaggy didn't know. He's on tour.
Right.
He's on tour playing to empty clubs, basically.
Yeah.
It was flopping. Okay.
Right.
And it was like a pivotal time in his career.
Right.
And like, watch it. It's a great, but
Right.
it goes to show you, like, a song that is that objectively good
Yeah.
still couldn't see the light of day
Wow.
until it took some guy in Hawaii
Yeah.
who heard it and went, this is awesome, played it. The phone line started lighting up. He had the only copy of the song on the island.
Wow.
And it was a bootleg copy. And all of a sudden, it starts to take off.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's cool in a sense where if it is truly that good, and that's my belief, if it truly is that good, I feel like it can find its way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it does need a lucky bounce. Like, you do need.
But you can also argue that, like, in Shaggy's case, yeah, the label wasn't getting behind it, but he was already, like, he had what was that song? They're called me Mr. Bombastic. He had that, like, he had one single before
Absolutely, but he
was working.
But he still couldn't get support.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I remember hearing that song for the first time in my mom's Nissan Quest, coming over the radio, going, "This is nuts."
Right.
Like, I vividly remember hearing that all over the radio and going, "This is the craziest song of all time."
Right.
At, I don't know, I was like 8.
Right.
So I don't understand how you can't hear that and immediately go, "Oh my God, this is the, like, what? Like, I don't know. As a fan of music, wouldn't you just want to play that on repeat?"
Yeah, but I feel like, it's mainly about the people in the room when that song gets played for consideration. And
Right. And
what are they about?
Exactly. And that's the crazy part. So it's like you start to realize that the game, that's not an objective game.
No.
Because it's like that. And so there I go back to, it just goes back to, like, and that's what kills me. Because a song of that caliber doesn't get the time of day.
Yeah.
I've never made a song that good.
No, neither way.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Maybe one day if I'm lucky. But
yeah, I see what you mean.
you know what I mean? So it's like, as soon as I became resigned to that fact and I realized, like, how the game, it's like, okay, you know what? And because I'm a bad networker, I know I'm going to lose anyway because I don't have the inside relationships.
Right.
So I can only win on merit.
Yeah.
And that's not how this game is played.
Right.
So
what do you resort to now?
emotional distance.
Right.
because I understand now how it works.
Mm-hmm.
I was naive earlier in my career because
Right.
I thought I was idealistic, because I thought a good song will always find its home. And
Right.
and by home I mean people will find it. And I think with Spotify now that can be the case.
You can, yeah.
I've had quite a few songs on an independent level do well.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't exploded,
Right. But they got some really impressive numbers.
but the artists I work with make money,
Right.
because it's found its home.
Yeah.
And so if the artist can recoup their recording costs and now have monthly checks,
Right.
I consider that a success.
Oh, 100%.
And so that to me is a much more alluring game.
Yeah.
But again, Spotify's changing, because now the way playlists are the new radio,
Yeah.
and they do a really good job. But then there's also, I got to speak with some high level managers,
Right.
and who work with massive artists, and I got an inside the look curtain at the hurdles they have to jump,
Right.
and the game that has to get played on that level.
Yep.
And I went, oh my God, like it almost just takes the joy out of it.
Yeah.
It takes, and again, being the creative person who likes to be in the studio, I had somebody recently tell me, like, yeah, you should have just never been part of that game. Like you should have had a manager or somebody else
Deal with that.
deal with that. And that's probably the truth. I'm not built, and this is the self-awareness part.
Sure,
I'm
but
not.
you tried.
I tried,
Yeah.
but I think, yeah, like just that disillusionment
Right.
of understanding the true reality of the music industry.
But there's something to be said about, you said like emotional detachment, and I think one of the things that make a good manager, or a good, whatever, like any type of music industry executive or what have you, is that they come into the picture once the emotional work is done.
Yeah.
And their job is not to get emotional. Their job is
100%.
to hear it and go, do I think I can sell this? Do I think I can convince somebody to put some money behind this?
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think like maybe that's, to me, at least in my eyes, that's the biggest divide, is like, are you going to be one of those people who puts the emotions into it?
Yeah.
Or are you going to be one of the people
Yeah.
with the numbers behind
And I'm
it?
a crazy Italian.
Yeah, you
I
gotta get
can't.
the
I'm an
emotion.
emotional guy.
Exactly.
So I just realized my role.
Right.
And so now I don't overextend,
You don't
because
cross the line.
I was trying to, I was also trying to prove to myself that I was good enough. There's
Right.
also like a whole other hidden
Right.
personal side to this that I think I needed to prove to myself that, I could write it, produce it, mix it, master it, take it to
sell
radio
it.
myself, like just as a fuck you to, like, because I had a couple people that try and rob me of,
Right.
of that.
Right.
They're trying to tell me I wasn't good enough.
Sure.
And so I almost was like, it was like I was trying to prove that, like, I could do it. And I not only I could do all these things, and
Right.
I got close.
Right.
I got close. Honestly, if I had more money, what I didn't have was enough budget
Right.
to outspend the bullshit.
Right.
Had I had more budget, I could have made it happen.
Sure, but
But-
at some point you gotta ask yourself, like, how far am I gonna go? Am I gonna go start chasing all these budgets? Am I gonna go all out? And then do I actually become a networker and a guy who's like, and how much
Right.
of your musical side and your emotional side are you sacrificing in the process?
100%. And that's why. But see, if I had a budget, I could have cultivated a slightly different team.
Right.
And again, good learning.
Right.
Good learning.
Yeah.
It's all good learning.
It is.
But it goes back to I just love. I'm more about objectivity.
Yeah.
I like objective things. When something is good,
Yep.
it is obvious, in my opinion. And I think from putting in the amount of hours I did, I also get into battles with people
Right.
because I go like, and it's not to put ego into it, because that's also the tough balance, right?
Right.
You don't want to have an inflated ego, but at the same time, when you've done a certain amount of hours, you do have a better litmus test than others.
Yeah.
And I also I struggled to get into battles with people who just didn't put in the same hours, and I didn't want to fight them.
Yeah,
because it's like you don't know.
Yeah,
like you don't.
Yeah,
but like I can't.
I sometimes will put people in their place.
Yeah, I can't objectively prove that though. That's the problem. Unless like the only way I can prove it is through plays or through objective metrics. Sure. Right? And so but before something's put out, there's no objective metric. Like in golf, one of the positions I envy most in golf is the role of the custom club fitter. Okay. And I told this so there's this guy Ian Fraser, he runs this company called Tour Experience Golf in Canada.
Okay.
They're absolutely phenomenal. And I told him, I said, I envy your position, because when you go get custom fit for golf clubs, right? Mm-hmm. Which is very similar to a songwriter coming in with their song. So my swing is my song. Okay. Right? And the role of the custom fitter is to pick the best clubs based on your swing and your alignment. Right. That are going to yield the best results on the course.
Right. And make sure that like
that you are hitting your numbers.
Yeah.
And they have this thing called a launch monitor, which basically is a crazy high-speed camera that has like, I think there's 4 high-speed cameras that take a picture of the club face, the ball, and give you all this data.
Right.
So that when you hit 6 different 7-irons,
right,
it is objective which 7-iron is the best for you. Because they can tell you.
It's absolute measurements.
It is like you either, the ball doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Ball don't lie.
Yep.
You know, I think that's a basketball player who played on the Celtics. He said that. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
But I told him, I said, you know, and so he acts like a mixer and a producer, where his goal is, okay, your swing is your creativity. Right. And now I'm going to objectively make it better. Right. And I can show you, and you can see it. Right. And you can see in front of you the ball flight, and you can feel it. Yeah. And it is like, yep, I am 100% a better player with this club.
Interesting. Okay.
Or even, not even 100%. I am 10% better, because that's usually what the gains are. They're marginal gains, right? The tough part when you mix a song or when you do something to someone's art, there's no benchmark to prove to the artist that it's better.
Yep.
You have to rely on subjective measurements. That process, and this goes back to revisions, this goes back to all those things. Yeah. That is the part that kills me the most. Right. Because, and it's tough to say this without sounding arrogant, but there are times when I know. Right. My job, I have trained to know. Right. And I have seen artists go a different direction because of variety of factors. Right. And it doesn't pan out. And that's
because of bad decisions
because they're not willing to, because of what we do is not objective. There's no way I can point to it and say, you know, the only thing that's really objective is loudness. Sure. And even then I can subjectively play with that. Yeah. I can make the meters look different than what it sounds like. Right. Yeah. And that's a skill. Yeah. Right? Especially when you talk about streaming. I can make it sound louder than it should.
But it's still hitting zero.
It's still hitting exactly where it's supposed to. Yeah. I can mess with that perception. I can create the illusion. And so that smoke screen is a blessing and a curse. Right. Because the blessing is what we do is objective. So we get to live in fairyland. Yep. But that's also what that's what kills me the most. Mm-hmm. Is we live too much in fairyland, and we can't just cut the shit. Yep. And be like, no, this is good or this isn't. Right. With like an objective razor. Yep. And that's why I love golf. And going back to the thing, that's why I envy the role of the custom fitter. I envy disciplines that have measurements. Right. Because there's so much wasted time. Mm-hmm. I have songs on my iTunes from artists that are incredible. I have one in particular. Right. It's this song. It's been in my iTunes since 2015. Right. When the EDM boom was going. Right. It is an objectively fucking huge song. Right. Objectively. Anybody I play this song to has asked me for it, begged me for it. Wow. Has literally said, please give me the file. I need this so badly.
Right.
Because after hearing it once,
Right.
and the artist won't do it. He won't put it out because he's afraid.
What is he afraid of?
He's got a whole bunch of baggage. He's got baggage with the song. He's got baggage with that time in his life that he made it.
Right.
He's afraid that it won't. He knows it's good, but he's afraid that won't materialize in the real market.
Okay.
And I have multiple times gone to him and said, dude, you got to do it. I don't even need to be involved.
Right.
I'm like,
just make it happen.
Please put it out. Put it out. It is so good.
Right.
And it sits on my iTunes. And it sits there. And now it's kind of past the point where the sound of it has missed its window.
Yeah.
It could still, in my opinion, right now, if it came out as a title track on a video game, it would absolutely crush.
Right.
Or if it was like the intro to like Saturday Night Hockey or something like that, like it would crush.
Okay.
But the artist won't do it. He won't. He won't. He won't do it. He cannot get past that mental block, and I feel bad because he's got it. He had it.
Right.
It was done.
Yeah.
And
but
there are so many songs like that. There are so many songs like that the world will never hear.
For various reasons.
For various reasons that are that incredible.
Yeah.
There is, for every amazing song that makes it.
There are hundreds of.
Oh
really good
my
ones.
God. There are so many that are floating in the ether. And I think and the general public has no idea.
Yeah.
They have no idea that all these songs exist.
Yeah.
But there are so many that are floating, that are in iTunes libraries, on people's Dropboxes and voice notes.
Yep.
That are just worldly incredible and are masterpieces.
Have you ever listened to the podcast And the Writer Is?
Yeah.
So Ross Golan has a thing he always says, and I the first time I heard it, it really clicked things in my mind. And he said, every time we sit down to write a song, it's like we're filling out a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
And I think the more time passes and the more the industry changes and, the way songs break out, that whole method changes, that becomes more of a true phrase because you don't know. You don't know what's going to work.
You don't.
There's nothing, not a single guiding line as to what's going to hit, what's going to even remotely perform. And at the same time, to me, that gives me peace. That gives me a lot of comfort knowing that.
Interesting.
Because we talked before about, hating flights, like hating to, we both hate flying. My reason is because, it's a mortal fear and I just don't want to be in something that I can't control.
Right.
But my wife, on the other hand, doesn't have that fear at all because she's like, we go down.
Yeah.
And there's a feeling of letting go of that I think is once you learn that that's what it is, that a lot of that just literally comes down to luck. And obviously, like, you have to put a certain work behind a song and a certain support behind it to give it all the chances. But you also need to know that sometimes it's just not going to work just for whatever reason. For me, that gave me this peace of mind to even just with my new band, with Kadima, to just go, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. I just fucking love it.
Exactly. And so that's where I've gotten to.
Right.
Now.
You found the love.
I'm getting there again.
Right.
I'm getting there.
Good.
It's taken a while.
Do you think golf has been a big element in that?
Absolutely.
Even just the escape?
Yeah. I think I don't need to do music 18 hours a day anymore. That's probably.
I think you've earned a
break.
break.
That's definitely one thing. And honestly, like I've got my workflow so ironed down now,
right,
where I don't need to spend as much time, which is to get good results.
Right.
I look at it more like getting ready for like an NBA game if I was a player,
Okay.
I rev myself up, I attack, and then I step, and then the game's over.
Game's over. Yeah.
And I
go to the locker room.
Right. And I think I've applied that to music because we can make music when we're tired. We can make music when we're sick. We can make music when we're happy, when we're sad. We can make music at all times. It's basically as long as you have a pulse, you can work on it.
That's true.
And if you allow yourself to live that way, which is what I did, you will do that. And you will make music at all times.
Yeah.
And I have an extreme personality where I will do that. Right. And like, you know, and honestly, like if it wasn't for the physical limitations, I would probably do that with golf. Like if it didn't get dark and my body didn't get tired, I'd be out there swinging 18 hours a day.
I have the same, I think that if I lived in California,
you'd be surfing.
I'd be surfing.
Oh, 100%.
And I would, you know, I'd probably like be the only person who went through the same loss of everything in life, you know, that you experience with like a heroin addiction, except it would be with surfing.
So I actually was curious with myself if because it's weird. I don't get addicted to substances.
Right.
Like same. I don't have like.
You get addicted to practices.
I get addicted to like it's like I get addicted to like doing things.
Yes.
Like it's like I have like if like part of the reason why I don't take up certain disciplines.
Yeah. It's because you know it's not gonna end well.
Because I know I'm gonna like I don't know how to do it passively. That's one thing I'm starting to learn now.
Right.
Is like, you know, how do I do something once a week? And not try and become world class at it.
Yeah.
You know, how do I like? Cause I even struggle with that in even in golf. I had like, I painted myself into this. I didn't paint myself into a corner, but I have this YouTube channel that I started that I absolutely love, and it's been amazing.
Right.
But I created a goal where I have to shoot under par within a certain time frame. Right.
You just couldn't do it for the fun of it.
Right. Exactly. I couldn't just play golf. I had to go, okay, because the way, so of everyone that plays golf, only 5% of golfers can break 90.
Right.
Now I started, so last July, I shot 93 at this one course.
Okay.
Exactly a year later, I shot +1, which was 72.
Okay.
Which is a massive
I have no idea what you're talking about.
That is like
it sounds pretty big.
That is a light years of achievement. So I went from probably a 15 handicap to now I'm a 1.8.
Okay.
Which is going back to. So one thing I have learned about myself through this whole process that I'm trying to now cultivate is that I can learn a skill very well.
Right.
Like when I really apply to it, like with drums.
Yeah.
I went from never playing drums to I ran the drum line within a year. I was snare leader.
Yeah.
Producing, like. I went from I didn't even know how to do anything to within a couple of years
to working with
I was
arguably some of the most successful artists in the world.
So now with golf, I'm like, okay, if I apply that same discipline to an objective field,
right?
Can I do it? How good can I get?
Right.
And it's been interesting because it's exposed just how crazy I am at like I have to do something all out. Right. Like I don't know how to just so what I'm learning actually what golf is teaching me is that because the problem I ran into with golf now was that once you hit a certain score within a round, like once you're at 4 to 5 over, unless you go on a literally life-changing run, you're probably not going to shoot under par. Right?
Okay.
Like you got to make an obscene amount of birdies or eagles, or you got to have luck from the heavens.
Right.
In order, like once you get to like 5 over on hole 13, you basically have to birdie the next, 5 holes which is like an incredible feat.
Right.
Like it's very rare for that to happen, but sometimes it happens.
Right.
Like the other day, it almost happened.
Okay.
I was 3 over.
Okay.
And I had to get 4 birdies in 5 holes to shoot even.
Sure.
To shoot under par, sorry.
Okay.
And I went birdie, 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 which I'd never done before on these set of holes. I almost had 4 birdies in a row, but 1 putt lipped out. Okay. Ended up getting a triple on the 17th hole.
Okay.
And then I shot 3 over. So I almost got my under par goal.
Okay.
But the problem I was running into was that I would mathematically get out of it and then be like pissed. Because I'm like, I can't shoot under par today. But it's like, no, enjoy, like just you're outside
You're playing
Enjoy.
golf.
Like, don't be so fucking intense, Gabe. Relax.
Yeah.
Right. And so I can say that now,
Yeah.
but it's like I have to learn those lessons. Like I'm learning that about myself.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck off, Gabe. Like, relax. Like, you're enjoy golfing. Like you're out here. You got great friends.
Yeah.
With you. It's beautiful out. You're healthy.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off.
It's a celebration of
and
life.
that's where I always would touch base with you
Right.
when I talk about your perspective,
Right.
because you've seen a side of the world that I've never seen.
Right.
And I think that's something that I just lack. Sometimes I get too caught up in being extreme,
Right.
in trying to be so good at something,
Right.
that I lose that perspective that, like, music matters, but it really doesn't. We're not doing open heart surgery,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true.
like, we can move people's hearts,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, like, the Pro Tool session's going to be there in the morning.
exactly.
It's okay.
Yeah. No,
And
the idea that life goes on and nothing is like this burning fire. Like
Yeah.
you're not a firefighter at the end of the day. You're a
Right.
musician.
Yeah, it's like, and so I look at, other people who have jobs with real consequences.
Right.
My girlfriend's uncle is head of cardiology at a hospital,
Yep.
and her other uncle does cosmetic surgery, and
Right.
I
It's pretty high stakes.
yeah, like they don't get to have off days,
Yeah.
and so I look at their demeanor and their appreciation for things. It's just different, and so I'm recalibrating how I look at things, because also too, like, again, there's more to life than just music and just some of these things. And so
Absolutely.
I've been learning a lot of those goals, and I find golf being good for learning that, because it has weird parallels to life. It's really a mirror
Yeah.
to who you are.
Yes.
And-
I mean, I don't need to know golfing to know that
It
that's...
exposes you, man. It, like,
Yeah.
like, because you see how people are in their truest form.
Yeah.
What do they get pissed at? Do they cheat? Are they honorable?
Right.
I think that's why it was such a good tool for business back in the day,
Yeah.
right? Because you got to see someone's true values. Are they going to kick the ball from under the tree? Are they gonna take that loss? And the other thing that I love that golf is teaching me is that sometimes you get what's called a bad lie, right?
Okay.
So when you hit the ball off the tee,
Yeah.
so when you're on the tee, you can create the perfect lie because your ball is on a tee.
Yeah.
So it's the perfect situation, ideal conditions to hit the ball.
Yeah.
Where it lands from there could be anywhere. You can land perfectly on the fairway and you
Yeah.
will have a perfect lie, right? Which means your launch conditions will be ideal.
Okay.
Or you could end up in the rough or in a bunker
Right.
or under a tree,
Yeah.
where you have an imperfect lie.
Yeah.
Your ability to address that adversity and see if you can still make par, or are you going to be defeated and go, I can't do it.
Right.
That has been a very interesting exercise,
Interesting.
because there are times when I have hit it into the shit and still scrambled and made par. Because sometimes you have to hit it into the shit in order to create a great shot.
Yeah.
Sometimes the greatest shots don't come out of a perfect lie. Sometimes it comes out of hitting it over a creek, over a tree, and it lands to 3 feet. But if you admit defeat before you give yourself the opportunity, you may not know that you're being set up for greatness.
Yep. I totally agree, because a lot of times, when you're producing a song or you're writing a song or you're mixing it, anything, you go down a path where all you hear going into that path is absolute garbage. And you're like, I'm failing. I am getting fired off this job. This is the worst thing I've ever done. Why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
And when you get out of that tunnel, you suddenly realize there's a right turn that takes you into this beautiful beach. And then you go, I needed to go through this shitty, smelly tunnel
100%.
to reach that beach.
100%.
And then you get out, and all of a sudden, like, wait, I found the way to make this thing fucking work. And it's awesome.
100%.
And it's that perseverance.
Exactly.
And yeah.
And then you learn that
the
holes aren't so scary anymore.
No.
Because you learned how to dig yourself out.
Yeah.
Right. And so it mirrors a lot of things. And then it makes you appreciate, and then you makes you reflect on times where you got a bad bounce.
Right.
But the bad bounce actually saved you from something else. And then that gets into the whole, like, karma and things being meant to be and and some of that stuff. Because I don't know, I've had some weird occurrences where things that I thought were to my detriment were actually long term to my benefit.
Right.
And I think golf kind of helps me understand some of those more.
Right. It's like a microcosm in which a lot of life lessons occur.
Exactly.
Awesome. So one thing I've been asking everybody with this whole situation, this is just to kind of bring it to current times because today is August 18th, 2020. We're still in the COVID era. We're in stage 3, but it's not quite the lockdown anymore. We're allowed to do some stuff. COVID is not, let's imagine COVID is not happening right now.
Yeah.
Everything is back to normal. Everything is back to, what's the first thing you do? So you're missing now.
So the funny thing is that my life didn't change. I'll be honest.
Right.
So I've been a germaphobe for a while. So the joke that I've been having is that this is my Super Bowl.
Right.
I've been training for this for years.
My whole life.
I've been training for this my whole life. I've had Purell in my pocket
Right.
since 2009.
Right.
I'm fine. So that's the funny part. My life, I keep it very simple.
Yeah.
I'm a introvert, extrovert.
Right. Yeah.
I don't need to be around a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't like going to a lot of public places. Like I very much am in and out.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thing. I'm not a networker, right?
But when you're in, you're in, and when you're out, you're out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the funny part, and I think a lot of my friends have kind of, noticed this, is like other than the fact that like going to Chipotle or like some of those things is now, a little more inconvenient.
Yeah.
My life hasn't changed. Like it's straight up.
You're like, I'm loving the mask.
Yeah. Like it hasn't changed. Like if anything now I don't, it's funny. Like I don't have to worry about, I don't have the anxiety of like not making plans
Right.
with people,
Yes.
because sometimes I don't want to hang. I don't need to hang out. I'm good.
Right.
I think that's where I got off on producing, was that, and mixing, is that I got to spend a lot of time just alone.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine. Like I function high alone.
Yeah.
So I don't need to be around people. Like, but I feel bad for people that do right now. Like I have friends that are extroverts and need to be around people, and this is a really tough time for them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I feel for those people.
Yep.
Because I would say I've been, I've had my own version of anxiety when everyone's out and everyone's telling you got to be out. You got to, it doesn't work for me. And so I've just, so it's funny. So like COVID is my life hasn't changed.
Your life has
I
changed.
make records. I play golf. I eat well. Like
you keep on keeping on.
I chill. That's it. Maybe it killed some of my traveling ideas that I wanted, because I went completely mobile.
Yep.
So the biggest change for me was that I got rid of the whole big studio thing.
Yes.
And stopped, because one, I just think that's a waste of time now. Like with where technology is, and you and I have had these conversations so many times.
Oh my God. Like so many times.
Like so many times where it's like,
and you've really tested that theory.
Yeah, I tested. Yeah, I basically, because I wanted to make sure 100% that if I only had a laptop and headphones and an Apollo interface, can I make the same quality records as if I had an SSL and everything.
A big live room and a
that
big
Gear
overhead.
Slut says I need.
Yeah.
Right? And I tested that theory, and I don't need any of the expensive shit. I really don't. And it's just an anchor that keeps me inside. And I don't want to be inside.
Yeah.
I mix records better when I can put my laptop in front of a window with a big screen, and I can open the window and I got fresh air.
Yeah.
Like, and so I can change my surroundings. So the big thing is travel. Right. I was hoping to kind of bounce around a little more.
Yep.
I got, a really good friend in the UK.
Yep.
I do a lot of work with Spanish artists.
Right. Yeah.
So I wanted to go to Spain and kind of touch base with some friends there. Go to Sweden.
Right.
Touch base there. So it's more so that stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, the really funny thing is that like my life has not changed it really at all. I literally do the exact same things, except now I don't have to feel bad about not going out.
Okay. Beautiful. Listen, Mr. Gabriel Gallucci, You know I love you, man.
Oh yeah, I
And,
love you too. Thanks for
thanks for
having me.
coming. Thanks for sharing. You know what? Like we talk so much, but I feel like, we touched on a couple of things that we've touched on before, but went a little deeper.
Yeah, we know it's true. Actually,
And,
we went forward on a couple things.
and I think a lot of people are going to find a lot of value in that. So thank you for sharing.
Right, thank you for having
And,
me. I appreciate being on episode 3 of your podcast.
Yeah. Well, you'll be back because I think one of the things, because there's no concept here. And there's no
There's no rhyme or reason.
Like if you want to come back tomorrow, you're welcome. Like,
Yeah.
You know, but I think one of the reasons I wanted to do this too is like you don't need a single to promote. You know, if you're like a singer, songwriter, whatever,
Yeah.
you don't need to come here when you're like, oh, I have a new EP. It's like, no, it's like, oh, I just broke my arm and I'm in a cast. Oh, come over, let's do a podcast. You know, that's kind of what I want this to be.
Love it.
So you're welcome to come back anytime,
Thanks, buddy.
as I'm sure you will.
I appreciate it.
And everybody, I'll put the links to everything that Gabe does and everywhere you can find him. So he doesn't need to shamelessly promote himself. I'll do it for him. So go check out Gabe's stuff because it's fucking phenomenal. And yeah, love you all. Thank you for listening if you're listening. And we'll see you on the next episode of Everything But the Song. Bye-bye.
When I open my eyes and you weren't beside me,